Here we have a student's individual submission on a particular homework assignment. I've already accessed that assignment and scrolled down a little bit just to provide anonymity to the student I'm using as an example here. And we'll see some different features. There is the make exception option. You don't want to use that if you're connecting your course to Canvas. Any extension should be applied in Canvas because Canvas is controlling the due dates for assignments. If you're running a course exclusively through MyOpenMath though, this would be one location that you could make an exception to extend a due date for a student. You do have the option to override a score or delete all attempts. If for some reason a student started an assessment and there was a problem, you just want to start them from scratch. Those overrides, those changes would apply back to the Canvas gradebook. You have the option to view this assignment as a student if you wanted to print a version and see an activity log for the assessment. As we scroll down, we can see the score that they received on this assignment. When we look at individual questions, we can see the version of the question they're attempting. So for question 1, they only attempted one version. For question 2, they attempted 2 versions of this question, and we can navigate back to that first attempt and see what that mistake was. Any box in green with a green check mark indicates that that question was completed correctly, but there's always a key icon next to answers to show the correct answer as well. That will obviously be more useful when we start looking at incorrect answers. MyOpenMath does provide you the opportunity to filter these questions based off a few different criteria. I like to use the score equals 100% in many cases. What that does is filters out any questions that students got correct. So clicking that just filtered out this student's responses for questions 1 through 5 and lets me jump straight to question 6 where this student made their first mistake that they didn't go back and correct with a subsequent attempt. So we can see in part C where this student made 2 mistakes. Clicking that key icon will turn on the correct, or will show us the correct answers so we can compare and try to determine how close or far they were from that correct answer. And if they submitted any work along with that assignment, compare their work against that. If you determine for a particular part of a question that credit should be awarded or deducted if perhaps their work doesn't support the answers that they submitted, you can change the values in the boxes below. When you click in those boxes, it will highlight the question part in yellow to let you know which portion you're updating. So we can see this first answer in part C was incorrect. If I wanted to, I could change this to give them partial credit. This particular question was worth 0.125 of a point. So you get into some calculations there, what half of that would be or a third of that would be. You can also simplify your things for yourself a little bit by changing the point value of questions. So I'm going to jump to another course that I have open here to show how we would do that. So from any particular assignment, we can click on questions. We'll get the list of questions that are included in this assignment. And over on the right, one of the options that we can set is the point value for this question. So for homework, I often just have all questions set to 1 point. But then for exams, I tend to go through and weight questions differently depending on the difficulty of those questions or how many portions there are to answer. So for this question that we were reviewing, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. So for an exam, I would typically weight a question like this at 8 points or some number so that there would be a more simpler distribution of points so that each of these would be something out of 1 point. So it's easier to determine. I'm giving 1/4 credit, half credit, 3/4 credit, whatever that might be. But you can change that value to however much of that full credit that student should receive based off their answer. You can also click full credit all parts to award full credit for every single part. Just saves you a little bit of entry there. There's also an option to add feedback here, but from what I've experienced, I don't believe students have access to see this if they're accessing the course via Canvas. That's only something for students accessing a course exclusively within MyOpenMath. Once you're finished reviewing an assignment, you just want to make sure you head to the bottom and either save changes, or you can click Save and Next Student, and MyOpenMath will direct you to the same assignment, but the submission from the next student alphabetically in your gradebook.